Welcome to Real Life in the Bible. I'm Shad and I want to thank you for watching today. What we're talking about today, what was the scariest words that Jesus spoke that is recorded in the Bible? Well, stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. Jesus was very, I guess you could say, blunt when he was speaking. And as the New Testament was written, he put a lot of people on the spot. He walked and moved with love and compassion, but he dealt with the religious people a little more harsh than he did with the sinners. Why is that? Because the religious people were supposed to know better. But what was the scariest words that Jesus spoke? Well, we're going to talk about it today in Matthew chapter 7. Now listen, when I read this, I'm going to say it made me think a lot about myself and where I was at with my walk with the Lord. But in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21 through 23, it says this. Now listen, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Wow. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, now listen, on that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Now, I don't know about you, but when I read this for the first time, and he said, not all that say, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven, I was like, wow. It made me think for a minute. I looked at myself and said, am I going to be one of those? You know, we nonchalantly tell people, yeah, I'm saved. Yeah, I'm born again. You talk to people and you ask them, well, do you go to church? No. Or are you saved? Well, yeah, I'm saved. I said a prayer a long time ago and asked the Lord in my heart. But the Bible's very clear. Jesus was very clear right here that not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. That got my attention. There's another scripture in 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5 says to examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves, or do you not realize this about yourselves, that Jesus Christ is in you, unless indeed you fail to meet the test. It says to examine yourself. I'm not here examining you. I'm just sharing, when I come across this scripture, it made me examine myself. Like it said in 2 Corinthians 13, examine your own selves. We live in a world right now where everybody is so busy trying to examine others and point the finger at others and talk about who's doing wrong, this one's doing wrong. Kind of like the Pharisees and Sadducees in the Bible. They were looking at everybody else. And Jesus even told them, why do you worry about the speck in your brother's eye when there's a plank in your own? First, get rid of the plank out of yours so you can see clearly to help your brother. So in this day and time, we all try to put the spotlight on other people so it takes the light off of us. So what I'm encouraging today is that we examine ourselves and ask ourselves, when Jesus says on that day that, depart from me, I never knew you, is that going to be me? And I love what he said in John chapter 15. Jesus said, abide in me. Abide in me. In other words, that's talking about a relationship. When Jesus said, depart from me, I never knew you, we claim to know Jesus. But does Jesus know us? What he was talking about, to know somebody, is to have a relationship. I can say I know about Jesus, I've read about Jesus, but do I know him personally? Well, how do I come to know him personally? Through prayer, reading his word, spending time with him. There's a relationship. And that's the kind I've got now with Jesus. I know I can call upon him anytime I'm going through something, that he's always there. But I don't always just do all the talking when I'm in prayer. I also take the time to listen to what he's saying. But Jesus said in John 15, verse 4 through 6, he said, "Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself, unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me." So what's this fruit? Well, as a Christian, we're to be producing spiritual fruit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, meekness, self-control. There are spiritual fruits that we are to be bearing as Christians. So when we examine ourselves, that's what we can look at, is look at our fruit. Are we producing the spiritual fruit? You can find that in Galatians chapter 5, starting around verse 22. Talking about the spiritual fruit that we're to be producing. And that's what Jesus just said. "Abide in me and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit by itself." You can't be patient and loving and kind and gentle unless you're abiding in Jesus. And that's that relationship with him. He said, "Neither can you unless you abide in me." He said, "I am the true vine and you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, ye can do nothing." Apart from me, ye can do nothing. "If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch, withers, and the branches are gathered and thrown into the fire and are burned." What is that talking about? That's talking about hell. We should examine ourselves and take a look at ourselves to see where we truly are in our relationship with Jesus. And I don't know about you, but it scares me to death to think that I spent these years going through the motions, saying I'm a Christian, and then get before God on the day of judgment. And Jesus looks at me and says, "Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. I never knew you." I don't want to be one of those. So find encouragement in this to take a look at yourself, examine yourself, and see if you're bearing the fruit that the Bible talks about that we must bear to be considered a child of God. Examine yourself. Don't be one of those that stand there on the day of judgment and Jesus looks at you and says, "Depart from me, I never knew you." So I'm asking you today, do you know Jesus, and does Jesus know you? If not, that can be fixed quickly. You just simply by saying a prayer. "Father, I've come to realize that my relationship is not where it needs to be. I have told people I'm saved. I've even convinced myself that I'm saved and that I'm all right with you. But as your word declares, you said not all those that say, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven." So Lord, I don't want to be one of those. I want a true relationship with you. I want to know you and I want you to know me. You can have that just by simply crying out to him and asking him to come into your heart and draw closer to God. He says in the book of James, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. God never moved. He's been there all along. He just wants you to make that first move toward him. And as you make that move toward him and start drawing near to him, as his word promises, he will draw near to you. I want to thank you for watching. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you here next time.